Hey folks, this is Brian. We got to play in Elderath last night. And one of the players, who actually my son, wasn't able to make the game, so he asked me if I would run Alexander for him. So I did so. It was kind of iffy because I'm not just used to Alexander and the different things he can do. But I know he's a sneaky guy and he's got a bow and that kind of stuff. But you'll notice there are a couple times in the live play, which is in the description, that I'll ask the GM about this sword that he has because Alexander's two-handed weapon skill is really high, and his one-handed sword skill is mediocre. So, is this like a bastard sword that he uses, a hand-and-half sword that uses, two-handed, or what? No, this is a broadsword. Okay, so he's only got 60-something% chance to hit now, not 90-something. So, yeah, there's something going on. Anyway, so we last left the party out in front of the mine, spying on the goblins. And so we set up this deal where Runt is going to sneak up and try and sneak into the mine so we can make contact with Krim and her folks and whoever's left alive in there. And if they're in a condition that they can fight back out of the mine, we're going to launch an assault from this side so their back get turned and then they can attack from both sides, kind of deal, right? Get them in a crossfire situation. But we're going to launch that at high noon. But if they're not, then Runt needs to sneak out before noon and let us know. And there's some discussion about distances and modifiers and that kind of stuff. And Wes actually has in his light law spell list a spell called Shade, which deepens the shadows that are naturally there, so it increases your chance to hide and to sneak. So when we actually start moving, because Wes and Raymond are not quiet folks, that would enhance. And then, as we're far out, that's not an issue because they have all kinds of negative modifiers. But as we get closer and closer, it becomes more and more of an issue. And so the idea is we keep sneaking until somebody spots us, and then we launch our thing. And we do that. We sneak along, and we get to a certain range. Now, Wes has a range limit on his attack spells of 100 feet, which is 30 hexes. So we start marking off on the map, kind of, okay, about this far you can reach these first guys and these guys later on, but you got to get this close or hit the guys at the far end. So here's the first mark, and we need to make a special scan roll, I think it was, or notice that one of the goblins did in fact notice us. So the first thing we find out about is the fact that somebody shot Raymond. So that initiates combat. Go into strike ranks, and it was actually at this point that I realized I had not been taking notes. So I quickly scribbled down a bunch of notes what stuff I could remember. And I was keeping track of combat because combat lasted, I think, 5 rounds. Took us almost. Well, it took us half the session to do those 5 rounds. But Wes cast Lord Sleep like 3 or 4 times. One time he actually missed his casting. Trying to take down goblins. Initially, he was just focused on the ones that were up and awake, but he couldn't hit the far ones, so he did these guys, and then spilled over, and some of the other folks were sleeping. They go magic sleep for 2 rounds, so they're not going to be getting up. But when the bow shot fired off and the goblin starts yelling, attack, 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 whatever, everybody starts, getting up. He'll take a few out the first time. Second time, took out a handful more. Third time missed, and the fourth time, he took out some more. But while all that's happening, though, got guys on the inside coming out. And the very first friendly shot was Alexander, because he had the composite bow, so he can reach everybody. And so his intent is once something happens, he's going to kill the goblin that's by the actual mine entrance itself. And so he rolls, or I rolled for him, a 100. Fumbled. He fumbled his roll. And while initially our GM was running with RQ3, the Avalon Hill version of Runequest, he's been leaning more and more towards RQG because it's got new stuff, and so it's got more That's not the right word. It's got yeah, I'm not sure, but there's new stuff, right? So he's trying to keep in with the new stuff rather than using the old stuff. But there are some things in the new stuff that the old stuff had, the new stuff doesn't. That I'm going like, really? Like thrusting and missile weapon and spell attack locations versus melee weapon attacks. That's different. When you're fighting, sword to sword, arms and legs are out there. They're going to get hit. But when you're shooting at somebody or thrusting with a spear, they're a mass. It's just the way things are. So I know in my game I ported it over, and he's kept that as well. But there was something. Oh, the critical fumble chart. RQG just has one single chart, whereas RQ3 I think actually had three. There is a modifier to the melee one for parries. Well, most of us say the same. There's a certain section where if it's a parry, you do this stuff. And it had a separate missile weapon one. And the missile weapon, because I rolled like a 96 or 97 for his fumble type, which would have been hit self in the RQG table. I mean, is it possible to shoot yourself with a bow? Well, maybe, but it's not going to be arms, well, probably legs, but still, things just didn't make a lot of sense. But in the RQ3 version, it's blow it, roll twice more, apply both of the results. And one of them was lose your next D4 attacks, which was a 4. And the second one was weapon strap breaks. Now, when I read that out, I had misread it, thinking that the weapon broke. So we figured, okay, his bowstring broke. He's going to have to get a new one out, but it's got to pull out, so it's going to take too much time. By then, goblins are coming, so he's just going to change weapons. Actually, says weapon strap breaks, lose a melee weapon. So it would have been more like his sword belt broke and his sword fell to the ground. But say la vie. Anyway, so he ends up getting shot in the leg, goes down. Raymond runs over, does heal on him. While that's happening, he's drawing his sword and moves forward to the closest group of goblins. And of course, while this is going on, Wes is still casting out his Lord Sleep stuff. And also at that point, Runt says inside the cavern to the folks there, it's going down, let's go. And so he starts running out and he gives a hand on the shoulder. Let me go first. And then two more guys, follow us. So Krim and two of her guards pop out. And then Kesh, who is the historian wizard guy, and two other guards pop out. And then finally Runt. And so Krim and her two guards move to the first group of, they all kind of take a swipe at the goblin at the gate, at the mine entrance, because the Lord Sleep one of the Lord Sleeps worked on him, so he's down on the ground asleep. And they kind of just swipe at him as they're running by, kind of thing. But the coup de grace just kills them off, right? And Krim and two of her guards run to the first group of goblins. She starts hacking, and it's kind of funny because she's got that holy event grenade that does massive damage, and even if a goblin blocks it, it goes through shields, takes arms and legs, that kind of stuff. It's horrendous. And Alexander ran up. He's hacking at some goblins. There's 3 goblins gang up on him. Some more goblins gang up on Kresh and his 2 guards. Kresh fires a fireball in one of the groups. What else we got going on here? Oh, Alexander with his sword, his first attack, the group of goblins got him missed completely, and there's 3 of them on him. Thankfully, they all missed as well. Or no, maybe some of them did hit, but he was able to dodge. He's got really high dodge. So Wes continues to sleep. Runt is running around killing sleeping goblins. no, we make some scan rolls. So we see a spider rider coming out. So it's the spider witch. She comes out. Kesh falls to the ground, gets spider webbed, and dragged back into the mine. Runt is he's running towards that direction at that point. So he sees it. And the two guards obviously turn. Crush is going. Go. And so they'll go in there, but then it's black inside. So once they get around this corner, they can't see anymore. Runt goes to get a torch, comes back, and the other two guards go, here's these, and they both plop down. So he grabs those guys and drags them out. Instead of trying to hunt down the spider witch kind of thing. And by that point in time, all of the goblins except for the ones that were engaged with Krim and one of her guards, somehow with the other guard. And the one guard lost his use of his weapon arm. Maybe that's what it was. So there's just two or three goblins that are still active. Everybody else is asleep, and people are running around killing them. And Wes draws his weapons and runs up to help support Krim. Raymond does the same thing. Alexander runs over to get some more sleeping goblins killed. A couple of goblins ran away. A total of 3 goblins ran away. And by the time that Wes and Raymond got to the goblins that Krim was fighting, she killed him. It wasn't too hard. Oh. Let's see. Okay, so Runt drags the two guys out, and Runt says this little rhyme thing about those whose skin is dark as sin and hair as white as lies. There's more of them, at least 2 others, because their crossbows fire too quickly. It was just right. To take these 2 guards out, and because we're all talking, okay, we need to hunt down Crash. We need to go get him. And Krim says that they need to go back and get reinforcements because the ones that they ran into, she had well over 20 guards were with her, and we've got 3 left. We can't do this. We need to get more reinforcements or something. And she's not willing to go back in with more deaths on her hand against such deadly weapons. And then she plucks the dart out of one of the guards and wraps it in a napkin because she's going to turn that in. Hey, we need to investigate this kind of stuff. Runt does search the goblin body and finds 20 pieces of silver, but these are unique because on one side is a spider, on the other side is an eye. We haven't seen any 20s like that, and they look like they're pretty old. Raymond then goes around and ensures that all of the goblins are in fact dead. And we head back to Karsh. On the way back, one of the guards sees that floating boat thing that we had seen back south of Hamlet, months and months ago. So there's all this discussion about boats flying in the air and is this real and that kind of stuff. And in fact, the discussion of that came out. If we had a trained dragon, we could fly up there and check it out. There's a discussion about dragons, and while Wes was talking about the wyvern, he knew it was a wyvern, but I knew it was a wyvern. Wes didn't. He's had run into dragons and stuff like that. It was a dragon beast, right? That we ran into in the pass. But Runt started talking about Sam, the black dragon that we ran into back in Hamlet. So there's this discussion back and forth on what are we talking about and who's a what, and Krim, explains, hey, if there's 2-footed, it's probably just a wyvern. It had a tail, poisonous tail. Yeah, it's definitely a wyvern. If it had a poisonous bite, then it's probably one of the wyverns that were bred by Forg, and so they're even more evil kind of thing. So PCs are getting information, and so are we, for that matter. Okay, so we get back to Karsh. Krim meets with the high priestess, tells her what they met. Here's this thing. They weren't able to get Cash. He got pulled back in. And so the high priestess is going to go to the guild master and express her sympathies and that kind of thing. And Wes offers to go with her. And so just the two of them? I think it was just two of them went. And it was at this point where we start talking about the spider witch and the black skin, white hair thing that I had not realized that when we first ran into the spider witch that she was in fact black skinned and white haired. So yeah, they're true. But I didn't know that at the beginning. It became obvious after we started putting things together. Oh, the spider witch, because he thought it was a spider witch. He didn't realize it was one of these Drow characters. So okay, so that kind of comes out, and the whole dart thing, and the guild master asked if I had seen the weapon that fired these, and Wes hadn't, but he was pretty sure Runt had, and he explains that. And so the guild master asked to see Runt. I'm going to see. I need to talk to him. So Wes goes back to. Well, they both go back because at that point they get dismissed, kind of thing. They go back to the temple. Wes grabs Runt and Raymond as well. And at this point, Alexander went back to the winery. What do we call it? Shoot, I lost the word. The winery with his dog to take care of things and that stuff. So comes back, and while we're waiting for the guild master, an incredibly beautiful woman comes in the study and says, "Why, Wes, I did not think we have been introduced. I'm Willona." And Wes gets the feeling he should recognize her, either the name or the face or something. And so she's very polite's not the right word, but she's always smiling, being very gracious, that kind of thing. What brings us to the guild hall? You and your friends, kind of thing. And Wes kind of pops out, that Runt's seen this weapon, and the guildmaster was interested in, and she says, "Oh, Saffron was interested in this weapon." That seemed to catch her interest. And then Runt just starts to spill the beans. He feels like he should tell her, but he doesn't actually have to. But he does. While he's doing his thing, the guildmaster actually comes into the room and behind Willona. And so he hears the complete description of things. And when Willona notices the guildmaster, her presence breaks momentarily. So obviously she has some kind of glamour thing going on. As players, we knew that something was going on, right? There's magic involved here. And the guildmaster says, "Willona, thank you for entertaining our guests," and excuses her. And kind of exclaims at Willona, "Oh, what? You're not the guildmaster?" He says, "Oh, no, not yet." That kind of thing. Oh, and then the guildmaster kind of waves his hand, and the perfume kind of filters out of the room, and we all come to our senses. And Ray mentions about she'd be a most effective interrogator under the right circumstances. Some discussion with Runt about how many of these weapons there were and that kind of thing. And the guildmaster says, "We have not seen one of these," hold up the little dart thing, "for many centuries. Fork had many allies, one of which was a race of corrupted elves that used such weapons." And then Runt pulls out one of these silver pieces. Hey, the goblins had this money on them, so they're being paid by somebody. He goes, "Yeah, that's the coinage from their realm." And he mentions he's going to have to speak to the Baron about it, but he'll try to keep us out of that. And he tosses Runt a bag of 30 silver coins. As a reward for our actions, kind of thing. And then Raymond has to make the statement about, "Didn't you notice the glamour?" And then Runt and Raymond go back to the temple. Wes has a place here in the guild hall, so he stays here, but he goes to talk with Thurman, his sponsor, tell him the whole story as well, so he knows what's going on. And Thurman says, "Yeah, if the Drow return to the surface world, it's a very ill indeed." Next morning, Raymond and Runt have a meeting with one of the priestesses who takes them to the armory and says the high priestess, in payment for their actions, is saying, hey, choose something, one thing, kind of thing. So they wander around, and Runt ends up getting a heavy leather, high quality shirt, right? Chest and abdomen coverage, but it protects greater than what he's already got, kind of thing, or is less encumbering, but protects the same, something like that. And then Wes meets up with them. There's some discussion about going over to Herman's, see if they can find any more artifacts. And as they're going outside the city walls, rest of the towns where they're heading through, because that's where Herman's place is, there's a scream, and a guy grabs his leg. Runt and Wes both run forward to investigate. Raymond spins, dives for cover because a crossbow bolt came by his head. Looking for where did the shot come from? I just came from a second level story kind of place. Start looking around. There's people looking out. What's going on? But he doesn't spot anybody suspicious. And he comes forward, and they take the crossbow bolt out and does healing magic on the leg. And people, oh, how kind you are! How thank you, kind of stuff. And who are you guys? And Wes kind of out of the side of his mouth says, "Don't you recognize the heroes who rescued the slaves from Minok?" pointing the attention to somebody else. And then it starts, the whispers and the recognition start going through the crowd. And then Runt looks at the crossbow to see if there aren't any markings on it or something he may recognize, but there's not. This guy just, peasant NPC number 2 from a farm outside of town. But Wes puts in his notebook, okay, where's this guy live, who he is, that kind of stuff. And then we head over to Herman's. Now, we had past midnight at this point, and I was completely wiped out. So I said, hey, guys, it's late. Can we call it? Wait for this stuff for the late morning. But they decided to go, let's go ahead and roll to see if somebody is able to spot an artifact. Because spotting artifacts instigates a possibility of us remembering stuff from the other universe, right? The science fiction game. Which is why the solar panel thing triggers stuff in Runt and in Alexander, allowed them to remember Carillion, and I think something else. But anyway, so we rolled dice in. I rolled a 0-1. So there's something in Herman's that's going to possibly trigger memories, so we can do this doppelganger thing. Happy gaming.